And also, I would just like to say to you that I am the Education and Professional Services staff member, and along with me today, Ronna Mells, which is a part of our Relationship Management and Treasury Management Services. She will be assisting me here with this presentation as well. So today, we are going to get right into our presentation, and we are going to discuss several areas today, which will deal with the 2011 statistics as it pertain to corporate account takeover. We will also deal with UCC 4A, commercially reasonable security procedures. And then, of course, we're going to talk about this new rule that NACHA has implemented that began on January 1st for leveraging delayed availability. And then, of course, Ron is going to come in towards the end of the presentation and talk about the mitigation tools and tips for daily cash management. But first, let's talk about corporate account takeover. As we notice here in Information Security Media Group, they've sort of looked at this as a crime. I mean, they have defined this type of session or experience as a crime. It clearly is increasing over the years here, and the exposure to companies and financial institutions is getting very, very great. So what you want to do through this particular session is make sure that you listen to key action items, because I will give you key action items to make sure that you go back into your offices to make sure that you're mitigating these types of crime areas. Also, the faces of crime. The faces of crime today are no longer a normal face. Typically, if someone is going to steal from a company or an individual, they will come right to the person and they will maybe as an armed robbery or something of that sort. But now in this particular day and time, we're dealing with fraud that is faceless. So fraud today is really faceless, is by means of virtual connections. And also with this, a criminal can rob a financial institution and or an account holder via the internet. So they do not have to reside within the United States today. They can be across the border. So you need to look at your security procedures. You need to look at your policies in a totally different manner now, simply because the face of fraud is not what it was 5 or 10 years ago. So let's just take a look at some of the statistics that I prepared for you. And this is dealing with statistics based on 250 to 300 participants through our business banking trust study. And 55% of respondents experienced fraud within the last 12 months. So they were asked the question, have you received any fraud? And of course, when they discuss fraud, they're talking about fraud of corporate account takeover. They were looking at check fraud, card fraud, you name it. But 55% of these respondents had experienced fraud in the year of 2010. Now, 80% of the fraud incidents, financial institutions failed to identify fraud before the money left the bank. Now, when I use the term bank, I'm talking about credit unions and banks. So financial institutions, that's what that term is going to equal. It will deal with banks and credit unions. Now, for companies itself, 67% felt their bank, their financial institution, were attendee. They will witness and they will, of course, state that when they look at their financial institution, they're really looking at their institution as a safeguard. Once they have deposited those funds into that account, they're looking to that financial institution to make sure that they have implemented the proper security procedures and vaults, so to speak, to make sure that their dollars do not leave the financial institution without their authorization. So this is very interesting here when it talks about that 80% of the fraud incidents, the financial institutions failed to even identify the fraud prior to the money leaving out of the institution. And we'll kind of talk a little bit more about this as we get into it. Here's another slide here that that provides various payment systems. So we have a card system, we have a check, and then we have the types of crime, phishing, and then ACH and wire account takeover of what we're talking about today, and then even the third-party providers that host account information. 82% of individuals that responded to this survey, of course, they experienced fraud in the card network. So check used to be king as far as fraud, but if you notice, right below cards comes checks. So check and card is still king as it pertains to fraudulent activity. And you'll notice that ACH and wire fraud is really on lower because it's at 37%. Now the reason for that is simply because most financial institutions and companies, they have agreements in place to where they have to have special security procedures to move money via these payment systems, the ACH and the wire. So the answer, of course, is not to go back to check. So if that's a thought from some of the companies, is that I need to go back to the check world, that is not the answer. The answer, of course, I'm going to provide to you a little bit later with some mitigation tools. Ron is going to talk about some of those mitigation tools that can help you combat this type of crime. Now, let's narrow in here on corporate account takeover, which is our topic today. There was a survey that was taken with 230 respondents. And if you notice here that 63% of the respondents stated that they will have improved employee customer awareness, meaning that they are going to ensure that their employees and that the customer of the financial institution is made aware of these types of fraud. So they're going to begin to build education sessions, whether that's through a separate organization or whether that's something that's via their website, but they're going to ensure that this is happening so that companies can be more aware of this type of crime. You know, it's alarming really to me today that as much as corporate account takeover has been in the magazines, in the trade magazines, on the news, at financial institutions, workshops, you name it, there are still companies that do not understand the severity of this type of crime and the partnership that they must make with their financial institution. It's alarming to me to even understand that some financial institutions have not really taken this matter serious when it comes down to this type of breach of crime, simply because once the dollars have moved out of the financial institution, the dollars are typically gone. They're gone overseas, and we'll have several scenarios at the about middle ways of this presentation to sort of help you understand how this is going to. Since 2004, that's a lot of businesses. And I'm sure that there are businesses that are on the line today that's raising their hand right now saying, that was me. I was a victim of this type of crime. I'm sure that there are financial institutions that are sitting on this session that's saying, you know, we had to implement better, stronger security procedures to combat this simply because many of our account holders had been breached due to this. So I did a little calculation because with 200 businesses since 2004, that was totaling over about 40 million in losses that was reported through the FBI. So I sort of broke that down by month. Since that time, that's been $2.1 million per month that has been stolen from businesses and or financial institutions, and that was reported through Phone Factory Incorporated here in 2011. Also, these are some alarming statistics here that says that some of the researchers, some of the security researchers found that malware, so that's that virus that actually, you know, takes resident on the computer or the network of the company or financial institution's cash management system, and it targets the online banking piece. So when I say online banking, I'm speaking of online banking for home banking, for individuals, as well as the cash management system, how companies move their dollars. 90% of the Fortune 500 and 50% of the malware that has been added was undetected. So that is alarming. I mean, that's very, very critical for individuals to understand that, because apparently security professionals and or folks that have that responsibility at the company and at the financial institution, they're not monitoring the reports that come out of these particular systems. So what does this mean to you? This simply means that security awareness must be provided. And I'm going to give you a couple polls later on just to kind of determine how many companies have received some type of awareness to their financial institution, and then, of course, how many financial institutions have distributed that type of knowledge. So understand this one thing. If it's too easy for the company, if it's very, very convenient for the company to log in to their cash management system and move money, you must understand that it's going to be very convenient for the perpetrator as well. Now, so let's define corporate account takeover. I have 3 bullets here really that sort of shows you that, and if you notice where I have my arrow, is that there's an eye. Someone is always watching. And unfortunately, that's the day that we live in. There are so many types of software products that you can go to your computer store and pick up every day. The same way you can pick up a color printer to create paper checks and then send them through the system. So, but understand that with corporate account takeover, it does not require physical access. And I guess that's the key, and that's what you need to understand. An individual does not need to come into your office and load something on your computer physically. They can do that via the internet. They can do that via a click off of an attachment to an email. And there you go. The virus has been loaded to the computer, and then it finds its way to your network. It can be accomplished through that malware. That's that virus. So, I mean, that's just simply a small virus loaded on to their system. This type of crime and virus now is going to monitor the keystrokes of your payroll specialist or your CFO, so that now they understand and they can steal the credentials that the financial institution has provided to them to log into the payment system. So someone should be watching. The criminal is watching you. Someone needs to watch the criminal. Now, some other definitions here that we have is once they have loaded the virus, the software, the perpetrator simply is going to act like a payroll specialist, someone that has been approved, that has the authorities to log into the financial institution's cash management system and our home banking system, and then, of course, begin to create what we call wire transfer, ACH batches, getting into your bill payment systems. So from a financial institution's perspective, once the perpetrator has logged in, they look exactly like the company's employee. So they're able to compromise not only the login pieces, but even the layered security. Yes, I'm sorry, tokens. They would be able to even compromise your tokens. So even when you're loading tokens or implementing token technology, you need to really talk to your security professionals. What's the best token technology to purchase? Unfortunately, some token technologies have been breached and others have not. So that's something that you want to make sure has happened and that you're really dealing with a security professional when you're making these purchases. Another definition, of course, is that these perpetrators are not just looking at the DDA side, but once they have taken access of your credentials and they've logged into your online banking, now they have the ability to take money, draw down from your line of credit if that's something that your financial institution allows. Many financial institutions, they allow, once you have entered into that door, now you can move money from your line of credit to your DDA. And that's a great service. Understand it is a great service, but it must be monitored simply because if you're short on payroll and you need to, take a short loan to fund your payroll for this week, you want to have the ease of moving money from one account to another. However, now the perpetrators, they have learned that these type of accounts are resident on the cash management system, and now they can move money from the line of credit to the DDA account and either push the dollars through the ACH payment system, or they may decide to wire the funds directly out. Now, this right here sort of surprises me because most financial institutions, of course, they have requirements under the red flags rule. So many times now a message can be sent through that cash management system to change an address, to change a passcode, because most times wire transfers are associated with a passcode before that they're sent out. So it's very, very surprising that this type of crime can happen due to the red flags rule, but I'm here to tell you that it has happened many times, and here in Michigan. So you want to be aware if there are financial institutions on the line, you want to make sure that your red flag rules, that you're following those based off of your online banking requests. Now, what is a money mule? This, of course, is the last member to this criminal chain. The money mule, of course, could be an accomplice or a victim. So it sometimes is hard to determine if the money mule, your account holder, and I'm talking from a financial institution's perspective right now, that money mule could be a victim. They may feel like they are simply answering an ad for employment. And through that employment, of our day. So therefore, they know that individuals are searching for employment. So as they send these types of jobs via the internet, they know that it's going to look like a very legitimate opportunity. But yet it's a fake account. It's a fake company that these individuals will be working towards. So as an account holder, it's important that the financial institution ensures that their account holders are educated for these types of crime. So again, we're going to talk about that and poll some of you financial institutions a little bit later. But at the same time, as a company, you need to make sure that as you're sending dollars and that as money is moving through your system, that there's daily understanding of cash management. You understand what's moving out of your account. You're looking at your account on a daily basis to determine if something has been sent and it's not authorized. Okay. So let's look at the process here. This is how it works. First of all, you have what we call an interloper. Now, for many years, I know as we've taught education and folks that have sat for the accreditation for the ACH payment system, we've used the word interloper for many years, but yet there wasn't truly many crimes that were out there utilizing interlopers. Well, here we are in 2012, that there are interlopers that are truly breaching the banking system, meaning that it's the man in the middle. It's someone that does not have the authorization that now is coming in. They've stolen the credentials. They have come in between the account holder and the financial institution, and now they are creating fraudulent transactions. So it happens with the perpetrator where they're logging into the financial institution's cash management system, and then the ACH credits are created and or a wire transfer order is transmitted to the financial institution, and then of course the financial institution will act on those instructions, and then of course the funds are sent to what we call the receiving financial institution, and of course a money mule of course has already opened up an account, or they're allowing their account to be utilized fraudulently, and now they will take those dollars and send them out of the United States. So that's something that the only way that we're going to be able to combat that particular crime is by awareness. On the company side, as well as financial institution employees, frontline staff, you must add this to your education and training. Now, we're looking at UCC 4A right now, the commercially reasonable security procedures. Now, of course, you understand that UCC 4 to, prior to really 2011, I mean 2010, 2011, for the court system to really look at, what should be looked upon in contract law as it pertains to commercially reasonable security procedures when determining who's at fault during this type of dispute. That's what contract law is. The court system is going to look towards this particular contract law, and then, of course, when there is a dispute between the financial institution and a company. So, first of all, UCC 4A states that a signature verification alone is not commercially reasonable. Now, I do know that there are many financial institutions that they depend upon a signature alone to transmit dollars. Now, understand under UCC 4A, we are looking at company credits that are coming in. However, for sound business practices, you want to utilize security procedures for all transactions, electronic transactions that are moving through. So right now, it truly pertains itself to the ACH credits that are coming through as well as wire transfer, but you want that for even if it comes through as a consumer credit that's coming through. You need to really understand what's coming through the system and make sure between the financial institution and that company that you all have gotten together and you have agreed upon security procedures. So the procedures, of course, should include a positive acknowledgement. Really the only way or the best procedures that have been implemented during this stage is positive acknowledgement that the company has transmitted a file to the financial institution and the financial institution now somehow has acknowledged receipt of that file prior to transmitting it out to the Federal Reserve or the ACH operator with some form of positive acknowledgement. And I know what some are saying right now, well, that's going back to the days of old where we're pushing paper, we're picking up the telephone, and we're making phone calls. No, stop right where you're at, because now we have technology. We have the smartphone that you can utilize, and you can leverage a lot of that type of technology out there to whereas you're not necessarily pushing out paper. Okay, but understand through this that many cases are in court today. Last week I just read 4 individual cases, and they were dealing with at least anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million that's in court right now as we speak, dealing with this corporate account takeover. So now it's going to be dependent upon the court system to determine, is it the fault of the company or is it the financial institution? We'll have to have a wait and see approach here. So, protecting your company assets. Now, I'm sure for the companies that are on the line that as you hire employees and as you provide these responsibilities to individuals such as your payroll specialists, your CFOs, et cetera, you are hoping that they will share in the responsibility of protecting the company's assets, really. So if you notice here this lock that's on the computer, on the keyboard, that's exactly the picture that I want you to have. So now you know that you cannot have a physical chain and lock on the key board. However, now you need to step back, think about what dual control process, what security procedure, what policy, and how we're policing these particular policies and procedures that we've agreed upon between the financial institution and the company to make sure that dollars are not taken from the company. Now, as we get into some of the mitigation best practices, one, of course, is document security procedures with your financial institution. Think about this. And hopefully, if you don't have your agreements in front of you, you want to make sure that you go back after the session. I'm going to give you a couple of action items to review that agreement and truly see, have you documented security procedures within your agreement with your financial institution. Require multi-factor authentication for your ACH and wire applications. Now, I want to stop for a second. I want everyone on the line to understand one thing, that this type of crime is not a crime of any particular payment system. It's not an ACH crime. It's not a wire transfer payment system crime. This type of crime has made itself available to all platforms that reside on the internet. So it could be any type of platform that's on the internet that would lure itself to this particular area of crime, okay? Another mitigation, best practice, of course, would be to request a positive acknowledgement. So if you've been processing wires and ACH transactions for 10, 15 years, and it's simply been that you log in with your ID, your password, and now you transmit the file through, and there has not been any type of acknowledgement from your financial institution, or you as a company, you don't have to send through what the expected dollars should be for your file that you're sending out today, this is something that you need to implement or discuss with your financial institutions. So, and I do understand and know that many financial institutions have begun this practice with many of their companies to sit down and talk with them due to this type of crime to tighten up the security procedures. So they're utilizing callback methods, or they're utilizing a separate email notification once the file has been received so that they can acknowledge back to the company that they've received a file prior to sending it out to the Federal Reserve and ACH payment system. With the smartphone technology, we all can be contacted at any time now. So the day when we were dealing with landlines, yes, no, we could not be contacted if we've left the office. But now there's no excuse. Don't be afraid as a company to allow your financial institution to have your cell phone number on file with these types of processes, simply because that's going to probably be the best way to get information to you, either by texting or through some type of token technology that's going to bounce off of your cell phone and for you to acknowledge that particular code, before the file is sent out the door. So understand that there are many types of mitigation tools that are available to us. We just need to sit down, take some time, and understand what those areas are. So use the technology to streamline this process. No, I am not saying go back to the day of 50 years ago where we have to push a lot of paper. However, pushing the paper has sort of proven to be a strong combat of this type of fraud. A couple more mitigation tools, of course, is, again, don't make it convenient. It should not be convenient. What I hear from many financial institutions is that companies, they want it convenient because they're so remote nowadays. So, and of course, they could be a one or two man shop, so therefore they can't implement the dual control procedures that's really necessary or that the financial institution is offering or requiring. Well, again, go back to technology. Let's sit down and determine what can we do with a one or two man shop, but yet I can still be mobile, but at the same time we have the security that we need, and so we can get away from the single sign-on, because the single sign-on is, of course, what has been causing the breakdowns. And if you notice my nice little picture here, she's having a major breakdown today. Because she's saying, another procedure? So here, as we look at this next best practice, your action item really is to review the origination agreement that you have, or the cash management, the treasury management agreement, and determine, number one, who's assigned liability in the event that security procedures are not followed. So as a financial institution, you need to pull out your agreements to determine, have they been updated, or are they still from 2005? Companies, you need to pull out your agreement and read it to see, in the event that something happens, where does the liability lie? Okay? So, Krista, I think this is a good time to break here and to, let's go to a poll. Okay, time to wake up. When has your company's financial institution mandated new security procedures? So as a company, what I want you to do is check the radio dial of if you have been mandated to utilize new security procedures within the last 6 to 12, over 12 months. And then financial institutions, if you're on the line, I want you to answer from a perspective of, have you required new security procedures? Okay, we're going to give the attendees a few minutes to add things in. And, okay, Krista, I think we can close the poll. All right. So what we are seeing here is that most financial institutions and our company, in the last 6 months, it's been 20%. So 20% of our attendees today have been required to utilize new security procedures within the last 6 months. 40% respective for 6 to 12 months and over 12 months. So, I'm really glad to see that 6 to 12 and over 12. So because that says to me that the financial institutions and the companies that are online, that you have thought about this and you've put in some new security procedures. So for the ones that within the past 6 months, thank you for listening. Thank you for reading and understanding that you needed to make that move. Great. So on our next mitigation tool here, you want to notice and understand that you need to restrict access to that cash management system. At one time, you could maybe have 3 or 4 individuals that could be that support in the event that someone was sick or someone, of course, they had to leave in an emergency. Now you really need to monitor the access. Only give access to the cash management systems companies to individuals that need it based on their responsibility. And within that, limit their authority. So truly limit the authority that they have so that you can help and partner with the financial institutions to mitigate this particular type of crime. So, give it to them on a need to know and have basis. By providing general access to all of your employees, is simply giving them a blank check and allowing them to sign it. That's what you're doing as a company. So as companies, you have to take part in this, you have to take part into this revolution, I want to say, to combat this type of crime. Next here we have on a mitigation practice here is that we are strongly, and I mean strongly, these are all action items for you. Every mitigation best practice that you've seen thus far, you want to make sure that you are going back into your shops, talking with your IT groups, talking with your financial institutions you're talking with your companies to determine if they have added these practices. And if not, then some timelines need to be added so that we can beat this crime here. Because at the end of the day, We have criminals that are outside of the United States that are trying to defraud us and then utilize our dollars to attack us. That's what this is about. This is not about a company, money is being lost, or a financial institution has taken their hands off of the vault. This is all about, we have an outsider. We have outsiders that are trying to come in, take the dollars that we have, and then come back and use it against us in terrorism. So really we need to look at this from a partnership, not individuality. So here from this mitigation best practice, we're saying here, if you have not implemented an up-to-date, a very present IT policy and data security procedures in your shops at your company levels, you need to do that. Now, I do know by talking with many companies, they don't have the manpower to do that. So what does that mean? It simply means that financial institutions, you need to assess. You need to maybe give them some guidance on how to get this done. Companies, you need to come to more sessions. That's why I know here at the Payments Authority, we have listed many presentations and sessions for the companies this year, simply because we want to make sure that you are educated. An area for IT practices, you want to make sure that you have strong passwords. Set some maximum length characters and number requirements. Make sure that your employees are changing their passwords periodically. No one should keep the same password for years. So you want to change it up, so therefore it's not so easy for the perpetrators to come in and defraud you. So, change the password periodically, make sure that you set maximum lengths, and then of course police your policies. Make sure that your employees are following the policy so that you can take care of your due diligence here. Another area here of mitigation best practice is simply monitor. Monitor, monitor, monitor. Most firewalls and fraud detection systems that companies have, they provide reporting. The key or the question really is, who's looking? Who's monitoring these reports on a daily basis? I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to companies, went in and conducted some consulting for them or some auditing, and I would simply ask the question, how often do you monitor your reports? And guess how often? Never. Or once a month. In this day and age, that is not the answer. Financial institutions, you have to make sure that you're communicating that particular message, that these reports need to be monitored on a daily basis. And for the financial institutions that are on the line, you need to make sure that someone is looking for this unusual activity. Because as your account holder, as your corporate company, their account, are they truly moving hundreds of thousands of dollars on a daily basis? Does that seem to be unusual or suspicious activity for you? So if it is, we need to stop it. We need to look at it and determine, should we really allow these dollars to move out of the account? Okay? Next here we have, from what security decisions have you had with your financial institution regarding corporate account takeover? Have you discussed anything lately, companies, with your financial institution, your relationship manager, or has there been silence? Financial institutions, have you made sure that you've communicated in some fashion? I know you may have hundreds and thousands of account holders, but how have you taken the opportunity and technology to be able to communicate and discuss with your account holders? So that's something that you want to make sure is an action item for you. FFIEC now is dictating it. And as FFIEC, the new guidance that came out in June 2011 is saying that this is something that you have to do. Awareness and education is something that the regulators for financial institutions, they're going to be looking at. How are you communicating this type of awareness to your companies? Now, a couple of case studies we have here. Simple. And you may be on the line and say that this has happened to me. A local municipality office was adjacent to a community park with free Wi-Fi. So as the municipality, they said, you know what, instead of us paying an internet bill, why not just go ahead and tap into the wireless next door? Now, I want you to understand something. This is a true story. The office staff accessed the bank's cash management system, so they went out to the cash management system, logged in via the internet, and guess what happened? They put in their credentials, they did all of their layered technology that the financial institution had required, and guess what happened? Someone compromised the information, came in during the same session the next day, and pushed dollars out. So that particular company lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Does this sound like you? Next case study. Meet John. Meet Tracy. These folks have been working hard in their business. John has not taken a vacation in years. Finally, he has Tracy as a payroll specialist, someone he can trust, and he's believing that she can handle the office while he's gone. He's sitting out on the beach. He's on his boat getting ready to take a trip. But one thing, he has Social Security. His specialist is creating the payroll. She needs him to come in, of course, dual control, as what we're stating. He signs in via Wi-Fi, where he's at. And now he logs into his system, approves the dollar amount, and then, of course, Tracy now can submit payroll while he's on vacation. Well, I'm sure you already know what the answer is. But some things I want you to understand here is that with the Wi-Fi, even if he's using public Wi-Fi, at that point, we know that that is something that you should not do. But if he's utilizing his Wi-Fi from his cell carrier, the action item for any company on the line right now is you need to determine, is that secure? So that means you need to talk to your carriers to determine, if I log in utilizing my smartphone as a modem to log into a secured site, is that connection secure before you do that? If not, you may have to have someone in the office that's going to conduct that dual control. So of course, going on with this particular story, where does the responsibility reside? Because of course, the story is that millions of dollars were transmitted from John's account and wired overseas. Whose responsibility is it? So, is it John? Is it Tracy? Or, because John had been speaking with his cash management officer, Troy, is it his fault, the financial institution? Well, the answer is simply going to be, it's going to have to go to court, and that will be the answer, the question. Krista, can we quickly go to another poll, because I want to ask these questions here. So I need you, from a company perspective or financial institution perspective, is to take some time here. I need you to determine, when was the last time your company received corporate account takeover education from the financial institution? So as a company, when was the last time you received it? As a financial institution, when was the last time you offered it? Okay, we're going to let the attendees take the poll. All right, and we're going to close it. And here we go. Within the last 6 months, 20% received. So we have, within the last 6 months, 6 to 12 months, 20%, and then over 12 months, it was 40. One more poll. I want to get some more statistics out there. Make sure you're copying these down. The attendees, you want to make sure that you're documenting these statistics so that you can take these back to your meetings. Okay, the next poll simply is, how was the most recent information on corporate account takeover received from your financial institution? So as a company, answer from that perspective. How did you get that education? And then companies, how did you distribute it? Give a couple of minutes here. All right, you want to close that poll? Newsletter is number one. So it seems here that financial institutions are really looking at the newsletter. Now that's paper. So my recommendation for the financial institutions that are on the line and companies, is that the best way to receive information? So as a company, you need to determine, is this the best way for you to receive information as it pertains to corporate account takeover, okay? And then communicate that back to your financial institutions. All right, I just want you to understand that there has been a rule change through NACHA. Help is on the, well, not help is on the way, help is here. It started January 1st. Whereas financial institutions have the ability to opt and to leverage a delayed funds availability rule, simply meaning that as a financial institution, as an ODFI, when transactions are fraudulently sent from the ODFI to the RDFI, the receiving financial institution, and they suspect that this is a corporate account takeover, money mule situation, it's very suspicious, they have the ability to delay the funds availability. Currently today, funds, ACH credits for consumers must be available at 9 a.m. The perpetrator, understands that rule. So therefore, they have been utilizing that rule against us as a country. So now, NACHA, help is here. Now they're providing ammunition for the financial institution to determine if this is truly a reasonable suspect of fraud, that you may be able to opt for 24 hours to delay those dollars. Now, keep in mind, you cannot begin delaying funds on every transaction. That is not the reason for this rule. The rule is that it's truly something that is looks like fraud. So you want to make sure as a financial institution that your BSA officer, senior management, risk management personnel sit down, develop a procedure, and when they will allow the financial institution to leverage this rule. This should not happen just basic in operations. This is a corporation policy from the financial institution, and senior management needs to dictate and drive this. Okay, I'm going to have Rana to go to the next slide dealing with mitigating ACH fraud. Go ahead, Rana.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. And did a great job explaining some really good best practices. And along with that, there are some tools that are available we want to share with you. For the corporates on the line, if you've not already had these conversations with your treasury management representatives at your financial institution, I would suggest that you do a follow-up with your bankers. Bankers, you're already aware of that, those that are on the line. We have some great products that are out there. One of which is Positive Pay. Now, Positive Pay actually was developed to help combat check fraud back a few years ago, and of course now, because we're seeing a shift in the fraud, Positive Pay is now available also for ACH. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Reverse Positive Pay is another treasury management product that's out there and available, and also ACH Debit Block. Now, please realize not all financial institutions have these products available. So again, you need to talk to your banker. I would suggest that you talk to your treasury management reps as opposed to maybe having a conversation with your local branch teller, because you're going to want to get the details on it, and they'll be able to help you, guide you through the process if you're interested in getting this set up. Now, the best practices that Adrian's been sharing with us, those are all things it's strongly recommended, and again, these kind of complement some of those other best practices. Another thing that, along with these particular tools, I strongly recommend that you have somebody within your organization that is monitoring, like Adrian said, monitor, on a daily basis. Go into that cash management system, take a look at your account, take a look at what type of transactions have posted to the account on a daily basis. It's kind of interesting. We have a tendency to look for unauthorized debits that may hit our account, but believe it or not, sometimes the way the perpetrator kind of tests the waters, they'll send an ACH credit. It may be for a couple cents, or it might be $50 or $100. So if you see a transaction, whether it's a debit or a credit hitting your account and you don't recognize it, you need to investigate that. So let's take a look at Positive Pay. Positive Pay actually is a fraud prevention product to protect against potential losses through early detection of unauthorized ACH transactions. Again, ACH transactions, debits or credits, either one. It's important to note that Positive Pay, like I said, it was originally developed for the purpose of checks. Now there's some very specific information that you input into your cash management system when you're doing Positive Pay, and you're going to upload that information. So you're going to basically say who the ACH transaction that you're expecting, who it's coming from, the dollar amount, and a date. And the system then will match those transactions up. So if there's a suspect item that has hit your account, you're going to have to look into that a little bit more thoroughly, see whether or not that truly is something that you authorized in your, to hit your account. And if it's not, then you're going to instruct your financial institution to return that item if it's unauthorized. Reverse Positive Pay actually works very similar, except that it normally is less expensive because the onus of actually monitoring this is put on the account holder. So this is going to be one where the business account is going to monitor that account. They're going to look for unauthorized entries on their account, and then the onus is on them to notify the financial institution when to decline to pay that ACH entry and return it. And then we have a third tool that's available out there, and that's called ACH Debit Block. The debit block services actually protect your bank accounts from unauthorized ACH debit entries. There's a filter that will actually look at electronic transactions that post to your bank accounts, and then your financial institution will only process those authorized ACH transactions that you state you have truly authorized. So these are, again, these are tools that complement all those processes and procedures that you put into place, the policies that you have, how you're monitoring your account, and really, truly, your financial institutions, you need to be talking to them, having those conversations, and financial institutions that are on the line continue to communicate with your corporates. Let them know what tools are out there, sit down, have conversations with them, help, in terms of getting those procedures and policies in place. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Adrian to wrap things up for us.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ronna, and that was good information. And again, if you are in need of understanding more about these cash management products that really is the combat to this type of fraud, seek out with your financial institution. But if you want to kind of understand a little bit more of it, call the Payments Authority and talk with Ronna, because she'll be more than happy to discuss and kind of give you the conversation tips of what you should say when you're going to talk with your financial institution. And financial institutions, if this is something that you don't have, this is just an area that you may need to look into. And again, contact Ronna, and she'll be happy to assist you in this particular area. Okay? So as we think and as we look at what we've discussed today, dealing with corporate account takeover, I mean, unfortunately, it's not going away. If anything, the perpetrators, they're going to leverage other types of schemes. Understand the same way that you have a job to do, they have a job to do. You go to work every day to conduct business, to build your business as a company, to build the financial institution for your account holders, but understand that the perpetrator, they're working every day. This is their job. They don't lay off. They do not lay off. They shift to payment systems. So therefore, you want to make sure that you are working just as hard as the perpetrator. Now, of course, in our message here, we're saying that, account takeover is not a weakness. Again, you need to understand that. It is not a weakness of any specific payment system. It is any system that has a platform over the internet. You want to make sure also that you need to strengthen your controls. Look at your controls. Review them. Are they 5 years old? Are they even 2 years old? You need to review them and make sure that they're still appropriate for this day. Then, of course, what worked 5 years ago will not work today. It will not work today. What worked 3 years ago will not work today. Embrace technology, but make sure that you embrace it with, very, very securely. And remember that check is still king. Check and card is still king as far as fraud is concerned. But as you're embracing technology and you're doing it very securely, don't run from it. Do not run from technology. That is the way of the world now. There are many laws and mandates that are coming downstream now that as companies, that's how you will be paid, is electronically. So therefore, you need to understand to get on board with the new mitigants and areas for this piece. There are a couple of things that I'm just going to just click here, and I've provided you with some references here, and here are the links, so please make sure that you go out to these links and get some information. And Chris, I don't know, were there any particular questions that someone had put out there that I can answer for anyone?
If you have any questions, you can type in the Q&A box right now.
We have about 1 minute here, so if you have, actually my clock says 4 minutes, so we have 4 minutes. We'll give folks a couple of seconds to see. If you have a question on you're listening, just go ahead and voice your question. Unmute.
I think we're going to unmute the phone.
We're going to unmute the line, and because I think we have someone that is trying to ask a question. So Lisa is going to handle that. And as she unmutes the line, okay. Did we have a question? Someone? Okay, well, Chris, I guess we don't have any questions, so apparently everything was clear.
You have been muted. Your microphone has been turned on.
Okay, so of course we did not have any questions. Don't forget, if you do have questions later, don't hesitate to give us a call here at the Payments Authority, or you can shoot us an email at our info and we'll be happy to respond to you. Don't forget about all of our sessions. The Payments Authority is going to be a great resource for you, for companies in the coming year here. We have many sessions. Go out to our calendar. Don't forget, after this session, go out to B2B and sort of chat about what's going on. What are others doing? This is not secret sauce. It's a partnership of all financial institutions and companies to combat this type of crime. So therefore, this is not secret sauce when you're sharing that type of policies and procedures. Know that the Payments Authority is a part of NACHA, direct member, and so therefore the education, we have received the mark of excellence, and all of our education has been approved through NACHA. So therefore, you want to make sure as you are looking for your education that you look for this symbol that you see, because this is what NACHA will stand